taking me?
This story is being my biggest secret for 10 years, and I don't think I can keep it anymore. It was on Tuesday in late October, my second year at the school. Our regular front desk guy, Mr. Halverson, was out sick, and the district sent over a substitute for office duties, a man named Gary, who I've never seen before. That was the first weird thing, looking back. Substitutes for teachers are normal. A substitute for front office security is not really a thing our district did. Nobody questioned it because the paperwork looked fine, and he had a visitor badge printed and everything. Gary was quiet, polite even. He kept asking me small questions throughout the morning. What time the buses came, which doors stayed unlocked during the day, where the security cameras were. At the time, I told myself he was just trying to learn the building. New job, new place, makes sense to ask questions. Around 11 a.m., a teacher called down asking where her classroom roster was, since Gary was supposed to bring it up. He never showed. I called his desk extension. No answer. I walked out to the front desk, and he wasn't there. His jacket was still on the chair. That's false alarm number one, kind of. I figured he'd gone to the bathroom or stepped out for a smoke. I covered the desk for 15 minutes. He came back eventually. Said he'd gotten lost trying to find the copy room, which is fair. The building is big. So I let it go. At 1:40 p.m., our principal announced a lockdown drill over the intercom. We have these monthly, so nobody panicked. Lights off, door locked, kids under desks, blinds shut. Standard stuff. I was in the office with 2 other staff members, and we did our part. Locked the front doors, killed the lobby lights. Except Gary wasn't with us. I remember my coworker Denise whispering, "Where'd he go?" And we both just kind of shrugged it off because during drills, people get pulled into all kinds of side tasks. That's false alarm number 2. We assumed he was helping a teacher down the hall. The drill ran 12 minutes, which was longer than usual. When the all clear came over the intercom, it didn't sound like our principal. The cadence was off, too slow. Like someone reading words they didn't fully understand. I've heard that intercom announce 1,000 things. This didn't sound right in my gut, but I couldn't have told you why. We unlocked the office door anyway, because it was the all clear. And that's when Denise said, very quietly, "Where's the master keyboard?" The keyboard was a locked cabinet behind the front desk, holding spare keys to every classroom and exterior door in the building. It was hanging open. 3 keys were missing, including the one labeled GMEXT, never used, only for emergency. We called the principal's office directly instead of using the intercom. She picked up confused. She said she'd given the all clear at 1:48. Not just now. It was 1:53. Someone had used the intercom system 5 minutes after her, in her cadence, on a delay. Police were called. They found Gary's jacket still in the office, but Gary himself was gone, and so was a maintenance golf cart that's usually parked behind the gym. The gym's emergency exterior door was unlocked and standing open to the parking lot, even though nobody on staff had a reason to be back there during a lockdown. They ran his name and credentials through the district. The Gary who showed up that day didn't match any substitute ever assigned to our building. The paperwork he'd handed me that morning, the one with his ID number on it, was a real form. But for an employee who'd left the district 4 years earlier, he was never caught. No kids were hurt. Nothing was stolen besides the keys, and the cart was found 3 streets over, abandoned, keys still in it. To this day, nobody knows why he was there, what he wanted with those keys, or who actually made that second announcement on the intercom. I still think about how calm he was asking me those questions that morning, like he already knew the answers and was just confirming them. I was a sophomore, 16 years old, and this happened on a completely normal Thursday in March. I'm telling it the way I remember it, which might not be exactly how it played out for everyone else in that room, but it's exactly how it happened to me. Third period was AP Bio, room 114, with Mrs. Calloway. We were doing a worksheet on cell respiration when the intercom clicked on with that little static pop it always made before announcements. My stomach dropped before anyone even said anything, because that pop usually meant a reminder about picture day or something. But this time, there was a long pause first, like someone was deciding whether to actually speak. Then, "Teachers, please begin lockdown procedures. This is not a drill." Mrs. Calloway didn't hesitate. She'd done this enough times to move on instinct. Lights off, door locked, blinds down, all of us packed into the corner away from the door's little window. I remember the smell of the carpet. That dusty, slightly sour school carpet smell pressed right up against my face because we were all crouched so low. For the first 10 minutes, it was just silence, and the sound of everyone breathing too carefully. Like breathing loud was somehow dangerous. Someone's phone buzzed and 3 people hissed at them to put it on silent. Then we heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow ones. Not running. Not the quick squeak of sneakers you'd expect from a teacher checking doors. Just slow, deliberate steps, pausing outside our door for a few seconds, then moving to the next one. A boy named Trevor, sitting closest to the door, mouthed, "It's stopping at every room," to the rest of us. Then the handle turned. It didn't open. Mrs. Calloway had locked it. But the handle definitely turned, twice, like someone testing it. Nobody made a sound. I remember staring at that little door window, at the blinds, waiting to see a shadow shift behind them. Nothing happened for almost a full minute. Then 3 knocks, calm and even, and a voice said, "Custodial, just checking locks," and moved on. That was false alarm 1. Mrs. Calloway later said that wasn't a normal custodial announcement protocol, but at the time, in the moment, it was enough to make a few kids exhale and start whispering. She shushed us hard. We stayed down for almost 40 more minutes. At one point, we heard a much louder sound, 2 sharp bangs from somewhere outside, maybe the parking lot side of the building. A girl named Priya started crying silently, and I remember a boy I didn't know well putting his hand on her shoulder without saying anything, which still gets me thinking about it. We found out after that the bangs were a contractor's truck backfiring in the lot next door. False alarm too. But nobody in that room knew that in the moment, and I have never felt my heart beat that hard in my chest before or since. The actual end of it was almost anticlimactic by comparison. After close to an hour, the intercom clicked back on, and a male voice, not our principal, not anyone we recognized, said, "All clear. Return to normal schedule," then immediately cut off mid-static, like someone yanked the mic away. Mrs. Calloway didn't move. She said she wasn't unlocking that door until she heard our principal's actual voice or saw a police officer through the window. 12 minutes later, an officer did appear at the window and waved us out. We were walked single file to the gym, where every other class was already gathering. I never directly saw what happened. I only know what other kids said in the hallway afterward. That a man who didn't belong on campus had gotten in through a propped door near the loading dock, and that he was found and removed from the building before he reached any classrooms. What I never got a straight answer on, even years later when I asked a friend whose mom worked in administration, was who made that first announcement and that final "all clear." Both my friend and her mom insisted neither one came from the office staff or the principal that day. The school's official line was that it came from an authorized administrator, but nobody could ever tell me which one, and the staff member closest to the intercom said she never touched it. This happened at the high school, so I'm telling this from the staff side, not the student side. I'm leaving out the name of the town and the school because I still work in education, and I don't need this following me around, but everything else is exactly as it happened. It started 2 days before the actual incident. which is the part that still bothers me most. A janitor found a folded piece of paper taped under a desk in one of the science rooms during evening cleaning. It was a list of names, 11 of them. Handwritten, no explanation, no context. Some of the names were students. A couple were staff, including mine. He brought it to admin. The principal looked at it, decided it was probably a joke or some petty drama between students, and didn't escalate it to the police. That's the first red flag, the one nobody clocked as a red flag at the time, because lists like that do turn up sometimes, usually about who likes who, or some inside joke. We get told this stuff happens, and 99% of the time, it's nothing. 2 days later, a Friday, we got a lockdown call over the radio system teachers carry, not the intercom. My radio just said, "Lockdown, all rooms, this is real," in our vice principal's voice, clipped and fast in a way I'd never heard from her before. I had 26 kids in my room. We did the drill exactly like we'd practiced 100 times. Lock, lights off, away from windows, dead silent. I remember the particular quiet of that room, the hum of the ceiling lights even after I'd flicked them off because the switch only killed half the fixtures, and the smell of dry erase marker still lingering from my last lesson. About 5 minutes in, we heard someone running in the hallway, fast, sneakers slapping the tile. Then nothing. Then radio chatter, garbled, someone saying a name I couldn't make out. Then silence again. 15 minutes passed. My radio buzzed with an all-clear, lockdown lifted message. I almost unlocked the door right then. Something made me hesitate. Maybe just instinct. Maybe the fact that the voice giving the all-clear didn't sound like the vice principal this time. It sounded like a male staff member I couldn't place. I radioed back, asking for confirmation, and got nothing. That was false alarm 1. I kept the door locked and told my class to stay down. 10 minutes after that, an actual administrator I recognized by voice came on and said clearly, "Disregard previous all clear, we are still in lockdown. Repeat, still in lockdown." Several kids started crying at that point. I won't forget how fast the mood in that room changed once they understood that someone had said it was over, and it wasn't. We stayed locked down for almost 90 more minutes total. At one point we heard several loud thuds against a door somewhere down the hall, then men's voices shouting things I couldn't make out. A girl near me grabbed my sleeve and asked if it was the police or the shooter, and I genuinely did not know the answer. And I had to tell her that, because lying felt worse than admitting I didn't know. It turned out to be officers breaking down a locked classroom door because a teacher inside had had a panic attack and couldn't get to the lock. False alarm 2, though obviously a real emergency for that teacher. The actual threat, the reason for the lockdown, was a man in his 30s who had walked onto campus through a side gate that was supposed to be chained shut and wasn't. He was carrying a backpack and matched a description called in by a parent who'd seen him loitering near the building that morning. He was apprehended in a stairwell roughly 2 hours after the lockdown began, and as far as I know, he never got near a classroom. What never got resolved, not for me and not for any of my co-workers who I've talked to since, was the connection between that list found 2 days earlier and the man who was caught. The school's official statement said there was no confirmed connection. The man gave police a different name 3 separate times before they got a real ID off him, and none of those names matched anyone on that list. But of the 11 names on that paper, mine included, every single one of us happened to be in our classrooms, on campus, on that exact Friday. Which wasn't even a guarantee, since 2 of those staff names usually didn't work Fridays at all. I've never been able to make that add a coincidence.